What if Gear 5 isn't Luffy's final form, but just the beginning of something far more terrifying? Because Elbaf, Emu, and Joy Boy's true power may have revealed one obvious shocking truth: Luffy still hasn't come even close to his real peak. From some world-shaking haki, to Nika's true godhood, to powers that might literally reshape the planet, today I want to break down how powerful Luffy may actually still become by the end of One Piece. And if Gear 5's Toon Force ever stops being a joke, the final war could become a true nightmare for Luffy's enemies. But first, it's very clear that by the end of the series, Luffy's gonna have the haki felt around the entire world, right? Because at the moment, he can make your average bystander pass out through sheer aura farming, but soon he's gonna have haki strong enough to even send people like the Gorosei packing. To be more specific here, I feel like by the end of the story, Luffy should get that crazy Joy Boy haki. When Luffy first felt Joy Boy's crazy haki blast back on Egghead Island here, he was absolutely stunned, awestruck, bamboozled, like, kind of all of us. That haki was so powerful that he could barely even comprehend it. And I'm gonna go out on a limb here, but I do imagine that Joy Boy left only a very small portion of his total real haki inside this knot that's stored inside of Emeth. When he originally wove his power into that haki knot, he was just kind of giving Emeth a last resort defensive measure in case he ever needed it in the future. It's not like he poured literally all of his crazy strength into that one piece of rope. So I think we can only really imagine what his full power might have actually felt like. And I'm pretty positive that Luffy, as his successor, will have that level of Conqueror's haki and maybe even more before all's said and done. I mean, don't get me wrong, sure, making 50,000 guys all pass out in one go seemed pretty cool, at the time back on Fishman Island, but these guys literally were just fodder. Right now, his Conqueror's haki isn't near strong enough to hurt everybody that we still have to compete with, because Luffy's still unable to harm the Gorosei even, for instance. It's been a while now, but remember that despite his best efforts on Egghead, even with Gear 5 and powered attacks, they were absolutely unfazed by that. And based on what we've been learning from Scopper, Conqueror's haki seems to play a central role in countering the Holy Knight's very annoying regeneration and immortality, and likely the Gorosei members' ungodly endurance as well, which I just think, the Gorosei should probably rank above just regular Holy Knights. Which is a very roundabout way of saying Luffy clearly just isn't strong enough right now. But whose haki was strong enough to beat the Gorosei, or at least sent them packing back to Marijua? Joy Boys. Luffy may have awakened the same devil fruit as Joy Boy did in the past, but it's very clear, I think, that he's got still a long way to go before he can truly become the next Joy Boy. Emeth's tiny haki knot alone was already enough to send all the Gorosei back through the abyss, seemingly negating Emu's abyssal powers and canceling the yokai transformations out, so I'm pretty sure that Luffy's going to repeat at least that same feat himself, but maybe on a much bigger level. The haki knot actually proved to us something very interesting, that haki can be put into objects and even stored for later on, so I'm pretty positive that Luffy's going to learn this type of technique himself. He could maybe even learn it from Nami, who saw the very same principle applied to the wind knots while she was training on Weatheria, where Vegapunk is right now after Egghead. So he'd be able to put all of his own Conqueror's haki into knots or some other objects as well, giving them to the other Straw Hats for them to use in the final battles of the series, for instance. He could even maybe boost up their own weapons, like 3 haki-infused swords for Zoro, a haki-powered climb attack for Nami, a haki-flavored cola for Frankie. Like, the possibilities with this are truly endless, I think. And on top of all of that, I'm almost positive that Luffy's got an unparalleled Haki knot already of his own still to use, and he's been wearing it the entire time. That's of course the straw hat that was passed from Roger to Shanks down to Luffy, but I do really believe that this hat's been passed down a lot longer than just Roger. In fact, for all we know, it could have originally been Joy Boy's that we see in the backstory, and if that were to be the case, he might have left a crazy amount of Conqueror's Haki within that hat that kind of makes the Haki knot we saw in Emeth look like absolute baby stuff. Though to be fair, I could also totally see a world where instead of being unleashed like a bomb in a single blast, it could actually be channeled into Luffy himself to maybe boost his power that way. Why? Well, that's because he spent years caring about it more than anything else in the world. It's just as much his hat as it was Joy Boy's originally, and this is true of the various previous owners too, with Shanks cherishing it as a keepsake from his beloved captain, and 800 years of owners may have just slowly been channeling their Haki into this thing to the point where when Luffy finally is able to tap into it, it might be that much stronger than Joy Boy ever was, letting him easily bypass the immortality and regeneration of the Holy Knights, the Gorosei, and who knows, maybe even Imu himself. Oh, right, and speaking of Imu, he's of course yet another opponent that I just assume is around a Joy Boy level of power, and Luffy just needs way more power himself to still overcome it or even be close to his level, because not only did Imu show off a crazy new sick design, he also just has been fundamentally changing everything we know about the One Piece power system every single week recently. I mean, even just Imu possessing Gunko's body already emitted such a terrifying level of sinister Haki that it alerted basically every single person on Elbaf that an absolute monster had arrived here. And things got even worse when Imu showed up in person. I don't need to remind you that when landing on Elbaf in person, his very presence sent the entire island into complete disarray. My man Scott Gaban even mentioned that he'd never felt Haki like that, even back on God Valley, where the characters that we thought were the absolute top tiers of the universe, like Roger, Rox, Garp, and then Imu-possessed Saturn, were completely battling it out in a crazy moment. But the thing is, was it Haki or was it Maki? Now, of course, translated officially as OMEN, or that's kind of how Oda calls it, but Maki is the Japanese reading. It basically means the devil's spirit or the devil's will, like a dark counterpart to Haki. However, its abilities do seem to be very different. It has to do with creating pacts, shaping black flames into various forms, and several other crazy Imu abilities that we've seen at this point. Is it possible that Haki could do some of these things as well? Like, are the powers just two different sides of the same coin, as the name suggests? And if so, could Luffy also use some of the abilities that we've now seen associated with Maki, with OMEN? It's really just beyond crazy. I mean, Imu just seems to have used OMEN to heal and buff all the Holy Knights that were defeated on Elbaf. You know, Summers was stoked when he hit that, hell yeah, OMEN! So instead of just giving his crewmates emergency Haki knots, I think he could maybe just boost up the Straw Hat's powers, maybe even letting them bypass the Holy Knight's immortality or giving them some other crazy powers. That might even pay off why all of the Straw Hats have some sort of demon or, you know, like demonic devil relationship. That might be what it actually finally gets paid off by Oda. I can also see a scenario where most of the Straw Hats are actually up against the wall, about to lose to the Omen-empowered Holy Knights, and then BAM! They've got angelic halos and sent them packing even harder than they did the first time now. I could also see a world where Luffy could do this with his Devil Fruit powers as well, making it so that all of the Straw Hats can, you know, access a small version of Gear 5, just kind of like how Bonnie did with her power as well. But let's be real here, one of Imu's wildest powers to me is how he seems to use OMEN to both shoot off projectiles of black fire and then shape it into all types of weapons like swords and maces. Honestly, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Luffy's crazy fighting with his own imagination powers of Gear 5. I mean, obviously, he can do some similar things with Gear 5 already with creating objects, but like the baseball bat, right? But can he also just fire off blasts of weaponized Haki like Imu is doing with Maki, instead of, you know, infusing Haki into a weapon or into his fist? Can he like conjure a Haki sword, for example? Or on another level, if Maki really is like a dark counterpart to Haki, are they really different powers even to begin with? Because if they are two sides of the same coin, then could Luffy just straight up use the Maki powers in conjunction with his Haki? Because if Joy Boy and Imu was a battle of light versus dark, of good versus evil, then maybe Luffy just transcends that by using both. Because honestly, and I'm not sure how you feel about this, but I kind of doubt that Maki just is inherently evil. I mean, it would kind of go against one of the big messages of the series, because Luffy's always insisting that he is not a hero. Imu talked about how there is no difference between gods and devils. You know, we just talked about this in this video here. Though Flamingo and Vegapunk have both given big, very lengthy speeches about how good and evil are just basically a matter of perspective and decided by the winner. So instead of just picking a side here, maybe Luffy embraces the whole yin and yang thing to become more powerful than Imu ever could be, uniting both sides, you know, into one. I mean, let's be real here, we've definitely seen plenty of pirates use the power of Haki for evil, so why wouldn't Luffy be able to tap into OMEN for the greater good? Though of course, before he can reach those heights, he also needs to tap into the true potential of his devil fruit and actually unlock the power of a god. Jesus Christ, how does Luffy still not know that he has a zone fruit? After all, the Nika fruit literally gives Luffy the power of the sun god, and at this point, Luffy still doesn't even understand what his fruit really is, and you know, it's kind of unsure if he'll ever sit still long enough for someone to actually have the chance to explain to him who Nika is and that he doesn't have the rubber fruit. I mean, right now, Luffy feels like he's at his most free and that this is his peak, as he said in Wano when he awakened his fruit, right? But that honestly, I think, couldn't really be further from the truth. To me, it seems a lot more like Nika's will is actually influencing Luffy's. His personality kind of literally changes and he begins to like laugh uncontrollably, not being 100% Luffy really, right? So who's really in charge in that state? And what will it be like if Luffy finally actually takes control? I mean, we've seen some of the hallmarks of a Devil Fruit awakening, like impacting the environment. We've seen him turning his surroundings themselves into rubbery substance, right? Letting them bend and stretch to his will. But what if that very same power could be extended even further to, like, say, apply it to an entire island? I mean, just imagine if an ancient weapon were about to unleash a devastating attack to wipe another island off the map, and then he just turned the whole thing into rubber to, like, ricochet it, you know, right back at whoever sent it. There's also the power of gigantification. We first saw this when he became huge to yoink Kaido, right out of Onigashima and back to the battlefield. And then again, when he picked up Kizaru, just like me, when I play with my Barbie and Ken action figures, make Kizaru and Saturn kiss in his spider. No, let's not do that. But if attacks like the Bajran gun is like any indication here, he can probably just get bigger and bigger and bigger, kind of like what Imu has been doing in his fight against Loki. So that's exactly what I would want to see more of as the story comes to an end. Again, Imu seems to be able to just manipulate his size completely at will too, and since Luffy's already been doing that, I'd love to see him get at least Loki big, or even bigger than that. I mean, if I were to name a very, very specific size here, you're curious, I kind of want him to get big enough to pull out that giant sword out of the Atom Tree. That thing has been haunting my nightmares ever since we first got the full page reveal here in Elbaf, and I'll never forgive Oda if he, you know, just put it there for show and it doesn't have any purpose. He kind of already did that with the big sword on Onigashima, and I really can't take any of that heartache ever again. I'm a simple man, right? I don't ask for much. Just my shonen protagonist to use a really, really, really ridiculously big sword at some point. Is that too much to ask, Oda? No, I don't think so. And I mean, if he's really gonna inherit the powers of Nika, Luffy might also need a weapon or weapons. After all, both Nika and Joy Boy have basically always been depicted with weapons like a sword and a spear. Now, I've already speculated that Imu's weapon, Nemesis, or like whatever the name is, if Nemesis is only the sword, but that might even be one of those weapons that maybe Joy Boy or Nika actually used in the past, but maybe Luffy will get his hands on a weapon as well. And I think, honestly, hands down, not the first time mentioned that anyone is mentioning this idea, but it would be very cool if Luffy actually got a staff. After all, as you probably know, there are just tons and tons of Journey to the West parallels, with Luffy being way similar to Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, Monkey D, Luffy, Pirate King, Monkey, right? It's all right there. And Sun Wukong had a staff as well, one that could extend and stretch, just like Luffy himself. So I could see something like that being added to Luffy's arsenal, which would be very cool. And don't even start saying that, that just be copying Goku, because Son Goku was actually also riffing on Sun Wukong. I mean, what can I say? Journey to the West is like really influential in anime, guys. So I could probably make an entire video about how One Piece is basically the Journey to the West. Let me know if you want to see that video. There's a lot. But back to the staff, I think that this thing, which in Journey to the West was called the Yui Jingu Bang, or Bang, or I don't know, Bang sounds funnier, that would be a perfect weapon for Luffy to wield at the end of the story. Luffy stretches, the staff stretches, it's a match made in heaven, but I also don't think that Luffy would just extend it. I think it would actually bend and stretch just as flexibly as Luffy does, making its attacks practically unpredictable. But if Luffy's not getting a weapon, then there's also the option of him making them as needed whenever the situation calls for it. I mean, there's already his new technique that he's done multiple times now, which is just reaching into a thundercloud and using a bolt of lightning as a spear. Now, since Luffy's already been known to use fire-based attacks like Red Hawk or Red Rock, maybe Luffy can just go full elemental and release a truly Kaido-level variety of techniques like wind slashes, waves of ice, fire punches, lightning spears. He'd basically just kind of go full Avatar and, use all the elements and also turn into a blue alien at some point. But in my personal opinion, the Gear 5 power that has the single most insane implications for the future of the story is, of course, the power of imagination. Luffy, kinda like Imu, can just make objects appear from thin air. So far we've seen it with pretty small scale things like a pair of goggles or a baseball helmet and a paintbrush, but if he actually managed to master this very power and can truly create, like, anything, then his powers could just be absolutely beyond broken by the end of the series. Like, right now, he just kind of seems to be doing it casually and just vibing with it in his fights. It's kind of like the same with Toon Force. He's just doing some weird Tom and Jerry antics and doesn't even seem to register that he's casually breaking the laws of physics and reality itself. So what could Toon Force actually accomplish if he channeled it with intention? What would he be able to make appear and use in battle if he realizes he can just do anything that he puts his head to? Anvils and pianos would be dropping on people like crazy. He might paint a realistic tunnel on a wall and get Blackbeard to run into it, right? He will run off a cliff at some point and not fall until he looks down several seconds later. I still feel like that's something that's probably gonna happen. Now, one fan theory I've seen online around recently is countering Inu flooding the world by literally reaching down the bottom of the ocean and pulling out a big plug and like draining it like a giant bathtub, which would be wild. Just defeating the bad guy's master plan with literal cartoon antics, giving the king of the world the old Hanna-Barbera treatment. But maybe you're like me. Maybe you think Toon Force is funny, and I guess it's like a little bit scary if you're Luffy's opponent, and it's very powerful, obviously, but there must be a little bit more here. What if this Toon Force thing is really only the beginning? What if Gear 5 just isn't enough for Luffy? Honestly, I can't tell you how many comments I usually get expressing their repeated disappointment to this day, just that Gear 5 is a little bit too goofy for them. Which, I do love Gear 5 on the one hand, but I do also relate to people craving something more serious. Fans hoping for a much more mature or cool power-up for Luffy at some point. And while I do think that Gear 5 is kind of a perfect power-up for that side of Luffy that does always want to goof around, even during fights, that Oda was kind of scared of losing, that's why he kind of reintroduced it. I mean, let's be real, the guy used Arlong's teeth as dentures and just straight up shut his brain off during the Enel fight, so, you know, that's kind of Luffy's fighting style. The list really goes on and on with this. But that's only half the story, of course. There always comes a point in a battle where Luffy stops joking around and he does get deadly serious, because there's still the fact that it took an awakening to even reveal the true identity of Luffy's fruit. He's a mythical Zoan and logically should have multiple transformations as well, right? I mean, I've mentioned this before, I think hopefully, because this has been driving me crazy. I just feel like there's a strong chance that Gear 5 might not even be his awakening potentially. Like, yes, he has the Hagoromo and stuff, and it's kind of treated that way. But is it really? Could it just be Luffy's god hybrid form and there's still plenty of forms to unlock beyond just this? I mean, if he gets mad enough, say if someone close to him dies again or is in mortal danger, Luffy could probably access something like a Gear 6, a peak beyond his current peak in which his reality bending stops being funny and starts being absolutely terrifying instead. Maybe he even starts pulling like the Maximilian Pegasus and pulls his opponents into a Toon world where everything, you know, plays by Luffy's rules or something, or maybe his manual transmission doesn't go up to 6. Maybe there's another gear that's been missing all along, like, I don't know, a reverse gear or a gear reverse, if you will. Either way, if Luffy were able to not just tap into Haki, but also Omen/Maki as well, perhaps his Sun God transformation could also tap into a Sun Devil transformation, giving him a much more powerful demonic form. After all, once again, Imu has said it themselves, there's no difference between gods and devils, so instead of Luffy's godly look with his Cloud Hagoromo being all white, he might also be able to cloak himself in the black abyssal flames to give Imu a taste of his own medicine, which I think would be absolutely epic. Luffy's Gum Gum Bell is gonna hurt a lot more if the dude grows some horns, though a full-on demon transformation is kind of the only way I really see Luffy ever getting horns. If Gear 5 truly is just a hybrid form or something, like, you know how the Zoans have the full form and the human form and the transformation form, no idea how this works for a human god form, like what does that mean for Luffy? But maybe his full transformation actually isn't humanoid. He could straight up turn into the true form of whatever Nika was, which in the past we've already speculated could actually be another dragon. I mean, think about it. His dad's name is Dragon, there's the Celestial Dragons, the world government is trying to recreate dragons, Ryuma slayed dragons, Kaido thought he was the next Joy Boy and he was a dragon, Loki thinks he's the next Joy Boy or Sun God and he's a dragon, and that's just, you know, just kind of having a taste of things. There's just a whole lot of dragon stuff going on here, too much for it to just not pay off in some other way, shape, or form at some point in the story. And just to put that take out there, I'm not going to be the least surprised if Loki isn't the only guy transforming into a giant dragon by the end game of the story. And at this highest of levels in One Piece at the end, he could truly gain the powers to change the world. Once again, when we first met Loki, he said that he's also the Sun God who's gonna destroy the entire world. Others have said that the Sun God is gonna liberate the world, but I don't think that these legends are just exaggerations. I think that Luffy will very literally be able to affect the entire planet with his crazy powers by the end when he actually finds the One Piece. But for beginners, I could of course see him starting out with, I don't know, a continent. And if you've paid attention, you'll know that the One Piece world only got one continent, the Red Line. Now, as a One Piece fan, you know that this has been a very long-standing theory that Luffy will at some point eventually destroy the Red Line. Pangaea Castle, Imu's home base, is right on top, so in destroying the home of the Celestial Dragons and the symbol of the world tyranny, he might be able to kill two birds with one stone by hammering down the Red Line. This giant continent that wraps around the entire world is one of the biggest things restricting the freedom of people to travel from one ocean to another. And by tearing it down, he would bring way more freedom to the world as a whole, and in doing so, Luffy would also fulfill Madame Charlie's prophecy because she predicted that one day he'll destroy Fishman Island and all of her prophecies have come true before, and also, fulfill Sanji's dream of creating the All Blue. And if Luffy punches through the red line up above, the rubble of course would fall below onto Fishman Island, destroying the Ryugu Kingdom, but if they get the Noah fixed up in time, the fishmen will then be able to evacuate back to the surface before their current home is wiped off the map. Such a continent-destroying attack, like a super-sized Bajrang gun, would liberate and destroy the world all in one strike, and it's kind of hard to even imagine what the ultimate power at Luffy's fruit could look like, since it could literally be anything, sky's the limit. But I do think that by the end of the series, I'd like to see Luffy apply his powers of imagination maybe to the entire world, the entire planet. I mean, just think about it, right? One of One Piece's greatest qualities, where Oda is absolutely unmatched in, is world building. Like, the world is kind of a character in and of itself that naturally grows around the characters. But what if Luffy could take this dystopian totalitarian world that's like full of suffering and misery and actually reshape it into something better? After all, my personal headcanon is that at one point the Grand Line itself was probably created intentionally, right? Like artificially by people, possibly by a previous user of Luffy's fruit. I mean, the Calm Belt and the Red Line, like I mentioned, kind of separate all the 4 different oceans from each other and restrict travel from one place to another place. But Luffy could totally create a world that's free, one that could facilitate his true dream, the one that he shared with Roger, that people, including his own crewmates, think is absolutely ludicrous. It would be a new dawn in a completely new world where everyone was truly free to explore and adventure, and most importantly, party a lot, or if you're Zoro, drink a lot. But maybe this is still not big enough yet, because the final war of One Piece isn't going to be on Marijua. I think it's going to span the entire globe. And I do think that all of the world's people are going to be cheering for Luffy to save the world from destruction, to bring them freedom in a giant-sized version, basically like a world-level version of what happens in kind of almost every single One Piece arc when the citizens of an island start praying for the villain to be defeated by Luffy. And how do I think he's gonna accomplish that? By going all the way back to the beginning of his journey, back to chapter 1 here. Because to get strong enough to save the world, to get strong enough to compare to Joy Boy and Emu, he has the perfect stepping stone and, goalpost in Shanks, the ultimate Haki Man. Because his mentor and idol is the one character that we've seen some of the most insane Haki feats from in the entire series, displaying some very specific abilities that I just need to also see Luffy be able to use in the endgame of the series. Techniques like future sight killing. Shanks' observation Haki is so strong, if you didn't know, he can stop other people from using their own future sight observation Haki. And since Luffy already mastered future sight itself, this is the obvious next step here. After all, the word omen itself also just has the definition of a warning of future events, so I kinda got a strong feeling that Emu can also use future sight, and it would be incredible if at some point Luffy just straight up shuts that down, leaving Emu clueless about the many ways that Luffy's gonna punch him. But hands down, the Shanks ability I want to see Luffy use more than anything else, well, look no further than Wi-Fi Haki. Now, obviously, that's not the technical official term yet. Maybe we can make it happen, but it is what we've been calling Shanks' crazy Haki feat from off the coast of Wano. Because from what seems like literal miles away, Shanks let out a targeted blast of Conqueror's Haki that got Green Bull to hightail it right out of here. And there were also a couple of other wild things about it to me, other than the sheer distance. Because first, Green Bull actually knew that it was Shanks' Haki specifically. How? Have these two had an interaction in the past, or was Shanks able to send some, kind of literal message through his Haki? And secondly, and even crazier in my opinion, that blast of Haki forced Green Bull somehow out of his Logia transformation and back into his base form, despite Green Bull being an admiral and therefore probably one of the strongest Logia users on the entire planet. And based on this and what happened with Joy Boy's Haki and the Gorosei, forcing them back to their base forms, and a few other examples from the series, it kind of seems like, you know, that a strong enough blast of Haki can just straight up cancel out Devil Fruit transformations, and that is definitely a power that I want to see Luffy get before the end of the show. In fact, that would just be an incredible way to get Imu out of his devil form and back into his base form, finally revealing what Imu really looks like if he's not just like literally made of shadow or is a human like the regular Nerona. But I also want to see Luffy extend this reach way beyond just a few miles. I want to see him use his Conqueror's Haki on a planetary scale around the One Piece world during the final war that is gonna, you know, be about the future of the world. Don't you think it would be way better that Luffy doesn't need like Denden Mushis to broadcast that battle, because everyone's just gonna feel it. He'll make Shanks' Wi-Fi Haki look like nothing by letting his own Conqueror's Haki be felt across the globe. But what I like to see even more maybe is the voice of all things, a crazy power that's still unexplained, paying off way, way bigger in the endgame of the story. As you might know, I've been thinking a lot about that specifically ever since, you know, Imu revealed that OMEN exists in all living things. It kind of makes me wonder what the voice's connection to Haki or Maki actually is. It does just still to this day remain one of the most mysterious powers we've ever gotten in One Piece, but it's very clear that it's a power that Luffy has already tapped deeply into. And I mean, yes, sure, like only time will tell what the voice of all things is truly capable of. We've seen Luffy use it to understand beings like Zunisha and the Sea Kings, or to call out to people from long distances, or know people's true intentions if they're like good-hearted or not. But if he truly masters this ability that Roger also had, and I would assume Joy Boy also had, could it too be one of those unexpected keys to overcoming Imu or Blackbeard or Joy Boy, right? Like, see, once Imu started throwing around summoning circles and turning people into demons left and right, I kind of got it in my head that those 4 giant bridges Imu's using are actually to create some kind of giant summoning circle throughout the world that could potentially Domi Reversi a huge portion of the world's population and truly cause the war to break out all at once. But then I also feel like by using something like the voice of all things, alongside the biggest Haki blast the One Piece world has ever seen, Luffy might communicate with everyone, everywhere, all at once. He would truly be like stepping into a Shanks role, and not just because he's using worldwide Wi-Fi Haki, but because he'd step in and put a stop to that last final war, just like Shanks did at Marineford, likely by using his powers to force the Domi Reversi demons out of their transformation, just like Joy Boy's Haki Knot seemed to cancel out the Gorosei's demon transformations as well. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I really want Luffy to, at the end, step into his own mentor's role, surpass him, and finally prove that he deserves to wear that straw hat. Though of course we can't kid ourselves, Luffy of course is not the only one who's gonna need some crazy serious upgrades by the end of the story if they're gonna fight at the top level. The rest of his crew is also gonna, you know, have a lot of mentors and people that they still need to surpass. Zoro has to overcome Mihawk, Frankie's inventions have to outdo Vegapunks. If they're all going to fight the Holy Knights alongside Luffy and maybe some even crazier villains to still come like Blackbeard and his crew, they all need power-ups. What kind, you ask? Well, I go through all the possible upgrades for all the Straw Hats in this video right here. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Thanks so much to all of our fantastic Patreons. If you want to support the channel and check that out, what we have there, like bonus content, link in the description below. And I'll hopefully see you in the next video. And let me know if I forgot any powers that you'd like Luffy to see, obviously.